The last time you and I talked, about 7 months ago, you had just raised the largest ever private equity fund to invest in North America, almost $14 billion. Now, you've left KKR and you're spending a lot of time here at Robinhood.
Yeah.
In your own words, what's the story? What happened?
Well, I was really privileged to have 24 great years at a wonderful firm that I consider my family at KKR. And I'm at a stage in my career now where I want to go and build my own business, acquire companies or build a firm. And I'm looking forward to doing that. While I'm thinking about all those options, I want to spend most of my time on some of the main philanthropic interests that I have.
Tell me a bit about that before we get into the next phase of your career. What are you doing here at Robinhood, and why is this the place where you've chosen to spend your time?
Sure. I've been a member of the board for a number of years, and so I've noticed the evolution, the growth, and all the capabilities that this incredible organization has, which goes all the way back for 2 decades when Paul Tudor Jones, Glenn Dubin, and a number of people built the business, built the group. And look, I think they, in my mind, are really a best-in-class organization fighting poverty in New York City. And unfortunately, poverty is not a simple one-issue cause. It's on multiple fronts, and it really needs multiple people, organizations, resources, and I think Robinhood has really developed the best staff, supports 200 of what we consider to be best-in-class nonprofits fighting poverty, and hopefully we're enabling them to do a good job in those different areas. So as I was thinking about where would I like to spend my time, I want to spend my time with Robinhood helping these nonprofit organizations. And in particular, I have been focused on the homeless initiative that we've been working on at Robinhood. So,
Alex, there's always going to be, there's always going to be poverty. There's always going to be homelessness. Regrettably, I'm no economist, obviously, but I think I can say that with some degree of certainty.
Right.
You've also been engaged in policy matters.
Yeah.
You've donated to Republicans. I would like to know from you, in addition to what you're doing at Robinhood, what do you want to see happen on the policy front? What's most important at a local level, at a state level, and perhaps most importantly at the federal level?
Well, obviously we can spend a lot of time on a whole bunch of policies that I would love to talk about.
What do you think would have the biggest impact?
Look, I think, again, as I've learned more about what's going on in New York in particular, which is where I've been spending most of my time, and let's take the homeless situation as just one tangible example. Today, there are roughly 65, 70,000 New Yorkers who go to homeless shelters every night. And 25,000 of those are kids. And 75% of that population are families. And so, you really think about everything that needs to take place, an integrated solution to bring down the homeless challenges in the city. You really need the city government, you need state, you need nonprofits, you need the corporate and private sector to come together, because no one group can do this all on their own. And so, as a matter of policy, it's both a policy issue, it's a fundraising issue, it's a group of people coming together to come up with solutions. And so to me, it's really a matter of how do you bring all these groups together, everybody well-intentioned, everybody doing their piece, but how do we bring them together to really come up with an integrated solution that can really reduce that number, to minimal numbers. Sorry, one more thing.
Right.
And in addition to finding housing for them, which everybody says, well, the answer to homeless must be you just find a lot of housing. That's a big part of it. That's probably the most capital-intensive part of it. But once you do that, you still need to provide counseling. You need to provide services, job training, job placement, even before that, eviction prevention. And so how do you bring all of those services together on an integrated basis, not on a disjointed basis, to bring the aggregate tragedy down, but also keep it down and let people get back on their feet, rather than just, okay, we just brought the number down and And then the number goes back up again for a variety of other reasons.
I have a related question. Tax cuts clearly aren't going to alleviate homelessness, certainly not directly. But do you believe tax cuts for the wealthy will generate prosperity for the middle and working class?
Well, I don't really want to get into policies on tax cuts or other.
But these are things you have to think about in the role that you're playing here at Robinhood.
Of course. And what we are blessed in this city is we have a very philanthropic group of either individuals, organizations, both in terms of capital, resources, fundraising, and time devoted. You look at all the people involved with Robinhood and the amount of time they spent, not only money, but the energy that they put into it. I think that's what, in New York, what is really a very special opportunity to tackle poverty. And of course, all the things that go with that are going to have an impact. I don't think there's one policy. I don't think there's one issue that expands it. But let's remember, so much of the philanthropy comes from a number of people who devote a lot of time and energy and money. And what we want to really try to do is expand that to include the private sector, city and state working together. All bring different pieces to the equation, and I think that's where the real opportunity is, and that's where a great group like Robinhood, who has a great staff, a great board, and obviously a great cause, can convene all these different areas together.
Let me ask you a question about what happens next. You say you want to do something on your own. Yeah. Are you going to start a private equity firm? Are you going to join another private equity firm? Is it going to be something else in finance? Give me a sense of what it's going to look like.
Sure. Well, I will keep you posted. But what I'm really thinking through all of that. To be honest, I think the opportunities in terms of raising capital. It happens to be a very good time and environment. Yes. For raising private equity capital or capital towards private equity. So I feel very fortunate. There are a number of different options that I'm considering.
Is your inclination more to be the founder?
I would like to find and build and grow the business. It could very well be in another firm, and really expanding their capabilities, but more likely it'll be something that I build from scratch on my own with partners and investors, and
Henry
have
has
more of a long-term view of investing.
Henry Kravis has had nothing but great things to say about you, even through the succession that saw you leave KKR. Do you think he or George would back you in that effort?
I sure hope so. I mean, I have nothing but great things to say about Henry and George and KKR. I think they've really been pioneers and really great mentors to me, partners to me, and I would hope that we remain partners in a different way. But I have the utmost respect for both Henry and George and my partners and colleagues at KKR.
Now that you're out of the industry, if only temporarily, you can afford to be a little bit clearer-eyed, if you will, about the challenges that private equity faces. In some respects, it has none. Capital, as you pointed out, is very easy to come by. But there are things the industry needs to confront. What's top of the list?
Well, let's sort of dissect that if I can. I do think the investors, so pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, big institutional investors, and even individual investors are really recognizing that the private equity industry at large has delivered really good risk-adjusted returns, both IRRs, multiple of capital, and cash over the last decade, which has been some of the most volatile in the equity markets and economic and geopolitical. So I think we start with the foundation that the private equity industry has delivered significant returns for investors. And as a result, there are a lot of people who are either increasing their allocations to private equity or coming into private equity. So on the fundraising side, I think it is a really terrific environment, all for good reasons. The industry obviously is now much more competitive. There are a number of firms competing at all levels. And so, like any industry that has delivered great returns, and there's been a huge amount of capital and talent, human capital that's gone in, it's a more competitive industry. But also the industry has evolved. I think you and I talked a while back where 20 years ago, you really looked at, well, we bought this business, there was X amount of leverage, and we sold it at a much higher multiple. Today, doing the deal is the easy part. Financing the deal is, with all due respect, is the easy part. The much harder part is, what do you do with the business over the long term to create meaningful value? And so the industry has evolved, I think, in a very positive way to be able to deliver that. And as a result, I think what you'll see is more repeatable, good, high returns. Because this is not just about, we bought it low, sold it high, put a lot of leverage on it. That's 20, 30 years ago. It's, hopefully we bought it at a fair value and we sold it at a fair value, but we were able to create significant revenue growth, profitability growth, expansion of the franchise. And I really do think the industry at large can really deliver that. And obviously there'll be better managers and top managers, but I think the industry has done that. And so I think that evolution needs to continue. And what we're seeing is, the industry is getting more global. It is delivering returns in different industry segments and delivering the returns I'm talking about, both from value creation in the businesses, as well as hopefully finding the diamond in the rough, low price that you can pay for something.